Welcome to the Social Media Church Podcast. Nils Smith, joined by the great DK Hammonds. DK, how are you, man?
I'm good. It's 85 degrees in Dallas, and it rained real hard yesterday. Hit Houston real bad. But for the
Yep.
most part, man, I'm great. Great today.
Good. It is 68 degrees here in New York City, just to
That's even
brag a
better.
little bit.
That's better.
Now we could talk in February, and I will not be celebrating the weather. But in May I will take 60s.
I'm sure you would.
And you will find the Smith family in Central Park tomorrow. And half of New York City probably too.
Absolutely.
With weather like this. But man, today we're going to talk about YouTube. We've talked about YouTube before. YouTube, when it comes to the client work that I'm doing right now, I feel like at least half my conversations around YouTube, because that's where the ministries that I'm working with are seeing the most success on social media.
Yes.
And it is a huge platform. And the guy that I follow that's been on this podcast several times is Sean Cannell. He's who I learned the most from in the space, and he runs a channel called Think Media that just puts out some gold. And he put out a video, just a short, I think I saw it on TikTok, where he just walked through basically the 5 things that drive the most views for YouTube. And I'm going to go top of mind on this, so I might be getting it wrong. So I apologize, Sean, if you land on this video. But he even gave it a percentage of how it affects your video. So at the top, the smallest thing that affects your YouTube videos is tags. If you're a website developer, you understand tags and you understand how they're important for SEO. And people often talk about YouTube being a search engine. And so you would think tags would have a bigger play in getting your videos views. But according to Sean, and from my personal experience, I would have actually given it like 1%. I have never seen tags effectively help reach new people, reach more people. I understand maybe why they put them in the platform, but it doesn't seem like they help a whole lot. And I think I hear a lot of people like, I put a lot of thought into these tags, and it's like, you know what? Don't stop wasting your time with the tags. DK, any experience with tags
Nils,
on YouTube?
Absolutely. Nils, tell the people who may be, slow to the party what you mean by tags. Some people would maybe consider that hashtags, or are you talking about something that's more embedded within the page?
Yeah, that's a great question. So tags, so basically when you upload your video, it gives you 3 key places to input information. You give it a title, you give it a description, and you add tags. Tags are something nobody sees, but it's triggering YouTube's algorithm supposedly to help people search certain phrases or keywords that you want them, if they search for church in Kentucky, that they're going to find your church, or that if they're searching for sermon on hope, they're going to find your video. But practically what the data tells us and the experience tells us is that it doesn't really help that much, if at all. And so that's essentially what tags are. So you see that, but people are like, well, how come nobody can see my tags? Well, that's because YouTube doesn't make those visible. Now you can put hashtags, and Sean didn't mention that hashtags all in his videos. And I would almost say the same thing about hashtags, where they actually are more visible. They'll actually pop those even underneath your video title. But I have not seen those hashtags to even deliver much results either, or any results. And so we oftentimes will use them still because they're there and they're visible, and we perceive that maybe they could drive more engagement, but it doesn't seem to, from any data or anything I've heard from other YouTubers or from what I've experienced personally, move the needle much, either hashtags or tags.
Now, I would say to that, Nils, you're not wrong, but here's my pushback. Is that in long form or just short form and reels? Because my experience has been, because I started, for those of y'all who don't know, I started a whole new YouTube account. Nils knows I do this kind of stuff. I'll start something brand new just to see what type of engagement I get. And I started, I already had one sitting there pending. And for the most part, we do use hashtags. And because I don't have a bigger following, I feel
Yep.
like that's the only way that they're coming to my page via
Yes.
those tags or hashtags because I don't have the follow. And it could be my
Yep.
stuff actually looks amazing and they want to
Yes.
engage with that and things of that nature. That could be, but I think tags and I also think captions helps a great deal as it relates to
Yes.
YouTube. So I don't disagree with that at all, man.
And to be clear, I'm talking about long form videos here, and
Yes.
so that's a great call out because half of YouTube now engagement, and maybe half, not quite half, are shorts.
Yes.
And in shorts, though, you want to put that hashtag in the caption,
Yep.
not in the tags.
That is
And
correct.
so so in that instance, I do think that the hashtags does play into the algorithm
Yep.
more significantly, the way that the shorts function works, as somebody might click a hashtag of a video that they saw and then find your video. So that is a great call out, DK, of how hashtags can play into your YouTube strategy.
I think
the
too, bro.
Second thing, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I think too, that's about knowing what works for your audience. And I'm gonna let you get to number two, because like you just mentioned, hey, we run long form content. You don't need hashtags. We want short form content. You may need hashtags. And this is where you kind of get into the if, and, or but. So you figure out what works best for you in terms of the hashtags. But I agree with Neil 100%. If you're running a long form joint, you don't need hashtags. If you're running short form, you will need hashtags.
Yep. So the next layer down from tags is description. And he gave description, I believe he gave it a 15% of the what's going to drive views to your video. And this is often probably perceived to be, this isn't going to affect new views. This is more for calls to action within my video. But what Sean is telling us is it's actually a bigger driver than the tags. And what I have heard outside of that video from other content creators is it's the first 3 lines of your description are the keywords that you want people to you want the algorithm to see, or and notice, to drive traffic. And this is where understanding this is a search engine, and driven by a search engine, and it's even more so driven by a recommendation algorithm. And they're looking for what other similar videos, probably based on keywords, are going to be aligned to the content. And so, so your description matters with people finding your video. So I would prioritize this first 3 lines for search, and then prioritize the rest of your description for calls to action. I would also add to that, and Sean didn't mention this in his video, but I would mention the timestamps as a part of that description that's also going to drive search. I am making an assumption on that. I have not seen any definitive that the titles within your timestamps matter for search. But just seeing, how I've watched YouTube develop through the years, that would make a lot of sense to me, that it's looking for what your key, titles of, your outline essentially to your content are, and then they're going to basically drive traffic based on that data that you're feeding it. So I would say your first 3 lines and the keywords built into your timestamps. Any experience, DK, on the description or things you found to be best practice or a waste of time?
If you guys check out Nils's class on YouTube, this is where he talks about the importance of having a readable description that has the keywords that drive traffic. I think that's an important call out as well, because a lot of us are looking for the ways. That class has the ways in it. So please, man, please, sir, look it up. It'll probably be out sometime soon. I don't know. But that class has I took the class.
And we got to wait. I'll give it a quick plug, DK. We got a wait list set up. So if you go to churchyoutubelab.com, and if you want to get into our next cohort, we're running, every few months, new cohorts for that class, limited to 10 churches. It's been a lot of fun, where I just unload everything I've learned and know about YouTube. We deep dive into that. We just do 10 churches at a time in each cohort. So yeah, I would love for those to get into that. So churchyoutubelab.com is that
Thank you, sir.
website. But
we need that. So I would say to the description part, that is so critical. If you follow Nils's model, Nils has a model for descriptions. So you follow that model, it usually is, and call me if I'm wrong. Title of, let's say, leader or speaker.
Yep.
Title of, let's say, sermon, and then maybe church name at said in terms of in the title. And then when you get into the description, it's going to have that 3-prong hot little keywords in there to kind of bring people to it, and as well as have your social media content or whatever you want to do. Some people I've seen, Nils, introduce themselves in the description of YouTube, which I thought was pretty dope. Very different, but they introduce themselves in the description. So if you've never experienced them, this is their way of having good customer service. And so, yes, the description is so mission critical. I know Nils is going to get to thumbnails, but that's the next thing that's mission critical. So, yeah.
Yeah. So what, and I think too, I like that you even laid out the framework that I've shared before. And I really see it being 3 parts of, you want your first 3 lines to really be a summary that includes keywords intentionally built into it. Your next section being your timestamps of, what's in the content. And so even if you take your sermon notes, assuming that's your primary content, and you just put that into the timestamps, and then below that are links to your website, to, or even if you give an about, who I am or who this church is, right there. Then below the timestamps is where you want those calls to action to live. And so that's kind of the general framework of the description. The other thing that James River Church showed me this is they put their link to their CCLI license, their music license in there, or any music they might have integrated into the video. And that seems to help limit the number of flags. Now, they primarily do that with their live streams where they have music playing, and that seems to limit it getting shut down. Now, a lot of churches that I've talked to have had issues live streaming on YouTube because the AI system will auto flag their channel and stop their live stream midway through. And YouTube, one of the hardest things about any these social networks is there's no one to talk to when something like that happens. And see, it's not like Resi or your other live streaming provider that you can just call them like, hey, our live stream's down. YouTube is basically, like you're talking to nobody. You're talking to a chat bot, maybe, if you talk to anybody. And so, getting customer support is not going to happen on YouTube. And I think that's one of the big concerns of being on a platform like YouTube. But if you put that copyright license or, licenses, if you have multiple that you're using within a service, include that in the description at the very bottom. And that seems to just help the AI, filter that's trying to find any violations, identify that you've got the proper licensing to use that music that you're using, and not get flagged and not have your channel, frozen or shut down. Okay, so the third thing, keep going down the list. So tags, least important; description, second least important. Now we get into what I think is probably more like 25%, 30% is the title. And so the title is so important. And that's, DK, as you were saying, you want to really, this is where you want to put a lot more thought, because this is what's driving that search algorithm more than anything else. And typically for a church, I see it being your sermon title, is most likely, but think through what somebody might search, and you want them to find this video. And then you want it to probably be the pastor's name. And so we'll often use like a space and then like straight up and down bar, and then the pastor's name. Or you can have the sermon specific title, then the series title, and then the pastor's name. So I often don't include the church's name. Now some do, some don't. There's different reasons of why you would want to. But the reason not to is typically your church's name or your ministry name is going to be in the channel name, which is going to naturally be a part of the search algorithm as well. You can't change that. And so your title you can change all the time. all that said, you can actually change your tags, your description, your title at any time, and your thumbnail. We'll get to thumbnail next, but that title is where you need to put the most creative energy. And if you don't have a definitive title, this is where ChatGPT and some of these tools, we use a platform called vidIQ to help us generate titles.
Yes.
And it does a tremendous job of, you can give it a title and then it will give you like 3 or 4 different recommendations as to alternative titles that will perform better in YouTube. And so use AI to be your, copywriter support in that area. And it's a great tool. Anything else you've learned on the title side, DK?
Of course. Myron Golden is one that talks about title and thumbnails. And specifically, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't know if I'm saying it right, but I think I overheard this right because I took a picture of it. He talks about how thumbnails and descriptions need to have at least one of the 3 things. First one, I'm not thumbnails. I'm sorry. I keep going there because I'm hyped about them thumbnails. The title, first thing you need to have is something, and I get what Nils is saying, have something, but eventually you need to have something that generates a question, a thought process within said title. What he also talks about is something that generates curiosity. So question and curiosity. So now you can almost train your AI to say, give me a YouTube title that has both a question and sparks curiosity, and watch what it does with your title, right? Or give you 3 or 4 of them. And then here, this is DK. This is not Myron Golden, but I would say chaos. If you want to get the masses running to your page, those first 2 may not get mass appeal to it, but something that generates chaos will have the masses standing at your page, pointing fingers at you, questioning everything that you do. Now, you got to be prepared for the chaos if you are asking for it in your title and description. Give you an example, case in point, we ran a short on our platform, Social Media Church. Please make sure you follow, subscribe. And Aaron was talking about Android phones. He was just passing by talking about Android phones. And let me tell you, the chat went crazy because we were talking about Android. And that wasn't even in the title. This was just in conversation. We're talking about Android phones. So when you have something that sparks chaos, it's going to bring the masses to you.
Yes, that's so good. And one of the things that's interesting is there's a ministry that I work with that, primarily distributes preaching content. And their number one video every single month is a video that the pastor preached on sexual temptation. And anybody, and they have ranked first page of search results for that term, sexual temptation, for 5 years. And that video, or one of my other clients, Nick Vujicic, has a talk that just the whole video title is just bully talk. And if somebody searches bully on YouTube, and I would encourage you to go search it, you're going to find Nick's video on that first page of those search results, and that's driving traffic. So when you can have a video that is the first result of a key search term that millions of people search for on YouTube, you're going to get great results.
Absolutely.
And so be thoughtful for what somebody might search for and find your video, because when a lot of people search on it and they hit play and then they watch it for a long time, and YouTube sees that when we show this result, your video with that title, so you don't want to clickbait, you want to be, aligned, but you want to be catching people's attention with that title as well. So you want to think through, what are they going to search, but synchronously, what are they going to search and be curious about it with your content. And so that title really is important and thoughtful and worth finding a flow around. But don't just quick afterthought your title. Be very strategic and intentional, and don't waste a character in your title. You're limited in how many characters you can use, and use those characters well. And I would say shorter is better if that's the right length. So it needs to be as short as it can be and as long as it needs to be. Just like your video content. And so, but have the right keywords in the title. But then even more importantly, and where people are still not spending near enough time, according to Sean, is your thumbnail.
Come on.
And this is the graphic that people see. And this is, and one of the things that people often perceive is that if their video is shown, that, half the people that see it are going to click on it. The reality is anything more than a 1% click-through rate is actually good, according to YouTube. But they recommended this video and show yours. The title is going to trigger a lot of whether YouTube shows it or not, but the thumbnail is going to determine whether they click play or not. So you need your thumbnail to be extremely compelling. And so your thumbnail typically has, three things in it, as I see, DK, is one, it has text. Two, it has an image of the person that's talking or the key character. And then it has some kind of background imagery. So whether that's using design effects, whether that's using the stage backdrop, but you've got basically that layer that is also important and needs to catch people's eye. And so you need to have these three things. You need to be thoughtful. What font style are you using? What messaging are you integrating? Is it the same as your sermon title, or is it different? Most churches do the same title as their title and thumbnail. I don't recommend that, but I understand why you do that. Sometimes it's hard to how do I differentiate it? But you need it to pop. You need to get people's attention. You need to create curiosity. And this is where, Mr. Beast is the ultimate thumbnail creator. And it was interesting, even in, pastors, he always had all the photos with his mouth open. He's recently gone to all photos where he's smiling. And that's performing better. DK, the guy that is the thumbnail king, the guy, the pastor that I see as thumbnail king is Mike Todd.
Absolutely.
If you go to the Transformation Church YouTube channel and you look at their thumbnails, they pop, the text pops,
everything.
But it's also, you'll see P. Mike is almost always smiling in those images. He's, if he's got a sermon illustration, you typically see him in that boat. You see him with the horn. You see him with a drum set, whatever it might be. And it pops, and then they always have some kind of, poppy background. But DK, what have you learned about thumbnails?
Oh man. Thumbnails. All what you said is absolutely true. And you can equally apply to your thumbnail what I said about your title. Does it spark a question? Does it spark curiosity? Will it provide or prevent chaos? And if you're thinking of those three things between thumbnail and title, you can take what you didn't use for your title and put it in your thumbnail to generate more conversation around that, right? And so I agree 100% when it comes to the design, because I think there's an aesthetic to a thumbnail, and then there's a design to a thumbnail, and then there is an approach to a thumbnail. These sciences help you kind of get the thumbnails in check. And so I agree with you in terms of having that backdrop picture. Listen, use a picture of church people worshiping or looking at the pulpit or something that kind of is dynamic, as well as have yourself. Or what I've also seen is pastors using, especially those who do sermon series, they're using their sermon series graphic as the actual thumbnail, and then potentially put a thumbnail tagline there. So I think what else is important in that thumbnail, of course, is the church's name potentially, or the pastor's name potentially. And then what's the church is, you can add that and have that dynamic title. Having those things in there makes you, because the algorithm is both searching text and photos. And if you have text within the photos, the algorithm can pick that up. So having those things is going to position you in such a way that's going to get you the results that you're looking for potentially. I've been going through, I was talking to Nils about this morning, going through having to redesign my brand look outside of SMC. SMC has a dope brand. I want to make sure I complement that well. I can't have raggedy stuff. And here I am on SMC. So I went through, me and my team, we designed how my stuff looks. We designed the thumbnails. All my thumbnails is me behind a microphone in various graphic positions and all that kind of stuff. You could see that. And so, and the title is there. The title is there. The logo, my icon of the business is there. So all of that is there. And it is, here's my favorite. It is cohesive. Some of us go way
Yes.
too far with these thumbnails and they look so off brand and it's distracting.
Yes.
And so we need to be more cohesive, more thoughtful, so that we can have the chaos and the people coming to our pages asking what must they do to be saved. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. I think, you know, and it requires, I think,
no doubt.
testing and
No
learning
doubt.
and finding a flow. And once you find your flow, they don't have to be radically different. But I do think you've got to find, like, test what's working, what doesn't work, and you can change all of these things at any time. The only thing you can't change on YouTube is the video itself. But you can change how you package it in real time. Now, YouTube is opening up, and they say by the end of this year, everyone will have access to this feature where you can upload 3 thumbnails for every new video, and you can only upload it when you upload the video. There's 3 thumbnails. It will test those 3 thumbnails for 3 weeks. So every time it's showing your video, it'll rotate between those 3 thumbnails, and then it will see which one had the higher click-through rate, and it will choose that video. So I would encourage everyone that has access to that feature, and when you get access, create 3 thumbnails every time you post a new video. Let the data make the decision for you, and then see which one YouTube selects and continue to go in that direction, but keep tweaking, keep changing it, and keep updating it, and let the data, you know, and YouTube is going to change too. But you can learn what and find that flow based on those click-through rates. And that can, you know, I found, you know, a big difference between 1% click-through rate and 4% click-through rate, which is basically leading to 4 times the video views. But what it's actually going to lead to is probably more like 10 times the video views, because when more people click on it, YouTube is going to show it to more people. And that's going to affect your video views more than anything else. Now, last thing, and this was not in Sean's list, but it's kind of Sean wrapped up his video, is that the biggest thing to get more views on YouTube is to have better videos. DK, how important is quality when it comes to your YouTube content?
I am the prototypical crash test dummy when it comes to this kind of stuff. Please go and look at my previous page under DK Hammonds. I have 2 of them. And you can see my content and how it was just me piecemealing, because it was me by myself trying to work these things out. But as time has progressed, I value the time that somebody puts into a quality work in terms of their content, in terms of how it's presented, in terms of how the video quality is, how the sound quality is. I value that, because I know what it takes to do what we're doing now. It takes a lot of work to do that. And so I can't speak enough of the investment of doing better quality videos. And if I'm starting, let's say I only got a webcam, a Logitech webcam or a Brio webcam, and I'm just starting out with some of those brands, and those brands are great, and I'm ready to, you know, go up to the next page, then I'm going to go up to the next page and just gradually get myself there. And that's what I've been doing for years, is gradually pushing myself over that hump to the point where now I have a consistent product, and all I have to do is record, because everything else has already been kind of laid out for me. Shout out to my team that's on the back end. I love those guys. Those guys are amazing. Salute to everybody. I would say their names, but I don't know if we need to do that on this page. But anyway, but shout out to them, because they really helped me out a great deal in terms of staying focused and making sure that I present the best DK to people that I need to present. And that part has been extremely helpful, man.
Yes. Oh, that's good. That's good. It's, you know, I think at the end of the day too, though, don't wait until your video is perfect to hit publish. But I think the lesson from this is prioritize packaging, but make sure at the end of the day, the greatest priority is in the content you're creating. And so in order to get that content to more people, package it well, but you've got to start with good content. And I think at the end of the day, you know, if your content is good or not. And where however good it is, keep making it better. And honestly, at the end of the day, however good your thumbnails are,
Yes,
keep trying to make those better.
Absolutely.
And however good your titles are, keep trying to make those better. And however good your descriptions are, keep trying to make those better. And even your text. So all of these things are valuable, but I hope that this was helpful in really prioritizing your time and energy to package your YouTube content, because I believe the opportunity that is on YouTube, and even to go back to the shorts and long form video conversation, is your shorts, just like the other platforms, have like a 2 or 3 day lifespan. They die off, but you get a lot of viral opportunities there. Your long form videos have years of lifespan if you package them well. And so I think it's so important to prioritize this opportunity, because there's no other platform like that. That I believe that exists on the internet. Now, blog posts are maybe the only other thing similar to that, but that trend, is in decline rather than increase, because of just the amount of written content that exists on the internet. But there is still so much opportunity on YouTube, I think, to really own keywords and to really own these algorithms that are going to just create a snowball for your ministry. And one of the things that I want to encourage everyone around too, and this is a conversation I think we've had over and over and over again on this channel, is people perceive still that if we get too much engagement happening online, the people are going to stop coming to church. And I have never, with a capital N in never, seen a church reach more people online and end up with a smaller in-person attendance. Every time I've ever seen a church grow online, it has led to increased physical attendance, not decreased physical attendance. So this investment is an investment in your local church engagement, as well as an opportunity to engage people that might never be able to come to your church as well. And so YouTube is just such a significant platform in 2024. And it's hard for me to imagine a real competitor. I've recently put out a video that if I were Facebook, I would prioritize Facebook Watch and make it the YouTube competitor, because they're the only platform I think that could come in and create a competitor. But there's no competition. Period. Vimeo is not a competitor to YouTube. Rumble is not a competitor to YouTube. It's not comparable. Where like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and TikTok, these are competitors with each other. YouTube doesn't have a competitor. If you have video content, you need to be putting it on YouTube, and then you need to be helping YouTube distribute it to people. And that's what this whole thing is about. And I think as you build those systems, you build those processes, we all have just a unique opportunity. DK, as we wrap up this conversation, any final thoughts on YouTube and YouTube packaging?
You guys can continue to watch my page. I'm going to be kind of walking through YouTube. I figured out TikTok already, so I'm on a YouTube now and working with it. And I'm using these very principles from Church Labs as well as from Nils in the stuff that we do. And it has been night and day in terms of engagement, in terms of everything. And so I'm really appreciative of that. And I would also say, put out the content what Neil said, true, but also look at the content to see how far you've come. Some of us, we just instantly want to stop. No, and see how far you've come, see what you need to improve, and then make those adjustments as you need to make them as it relates to YouTube. And I would say this, Facebook has been having a problem with losing videos. I don't think we talk about that enough. Facebook, literally, a lot of churches, especially churches, have been using Facebook as an archival for all of their videos. Number one, the search engine is not good enough to be an archival. That's number one. Number two, Facebook every now and again removes stuff off to gain more memory and then potentially add it back later. So you could very well lose that. YouTube has not done that ever. So that is a great trade-off where your information and your videos will forever be there. I remember when YouTube first came out, the one guy who had the first 1 million views, I remember him. That video is still there to this day. You can go and look at it. So that's not coming down. But we do have to, and maybe another video for us, we do have to work on how we handle YouTube's parameters, because the very thing that could be used for the gospel's sake could prevent people from hearing the gospel because we didn't take care of business on our side. That's my final remarks.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, we're gonna keep talking
doubt.
about YouTube. We want to dig into
Yep.
all aspects of social media for churches, and that's what this
Absolutely.
podcast is all about. And we're gonna keep digging in. So thanks everyone for listening. If you got value out of this conversation, our hope is just to keep furthering the conversation, engaging more people, reaching more people. But if you could just leave us a review and write a review, at whatever, rate the podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher,
Yes.
wherever it is you're listening to this podcast. Go and leave a review. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, let us know in the comments where you're watching us from. We want to engage with you there. I would actually encourage everyone, go check this out, see how we package this video on YouTube. Because this is what we're prioritizing as well, because we see YouTube as such an important platform to reach and engage more people. So go engage with us there, and you can find everything. You see the show notes and links and all the things, and we'll talk about Church YouTube Live. We'll leave a link there at socialmedia.church. So go check out socialmedia.church. And we've got some great resources there. We actually just updated the website. DK did a great job really guiding our team through that process. And so we're committed to you and to serving you and supporting you through Social Media Church. And we appreciate you listening, and we'll talk to you again on the next episode.